We were going to come in and do.
You need it.
Just in case.
That's for this side.
Oh, wait a minute. Look at
Here. Look, you dropped it. Now this new.
I don't know where you're
I
from.
never seen this. I never seen this color.
Oh, wow.
Got something like that too.
I'm ready.
All right.
Get out of my candy jar.
Well, I didn't think I had water in there, but I guess I did.
His jar.
You're fine. I think I did pour some.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started with the fire department. Before us tonight is Chief Canny. Chief, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First, I'd like to introduce my staff. At the front table are my division chiefs, Nick Zumo, Todd Taylor, and Darb Calvert. And then behind him, we've got our office manager, Denise Hildebrand, Bryce McCormick, a deputy chief. You shook your head. Miguel Valenti is my former fiscal officer. Matt Wood and Eric Helms are also deputy chiefs. And then the newest addition is my new fiscal officer, Olivia Kerrigan. So she's only been with us 3 weeks, but so she'll be up here next year. Yes, yes. All right. All right, so this is pretty much unchanged for you aldermen who've been here before, have seen this slide numerous times. I want to thank you for your continued support. I'm not as well polished as Chief Scarlett on all this stuff, but I do want to ask you for continued support in the coming years, but I appreciate all your support in the past. We, just like the police department, have had problems attracting senior leadership. However, I have a great staff before me, so. All right, this slide here shows you how our budget is made up. Salaries and fringe is over 50% of the budget, and when you add in the pension contributions, 88% of our budget is made up of that. We have no control over the pension amount or the personal services raises. You guys actually have some control of the pension amount. Our workforce, this is our diversity. As you're aware, over the past 4 to 5 years, the previous 2 chiefs, as well as myself, have been working on increasing our diversity within the fire department. Again, it's been a 4-year effort, and we are now seeing the results of those efforts. We are still not where we want to be, but we have a class that begins tomorrow, and we have 3 minorities beginning in that class of 16.
Good.
This will take, thank you, good to hear that. This will take years to get to where we want to be. However, oh no, did I do something?
It was the Pac-Man.
Okay. This will take years to get to where we want to be, and we'll continue our efforts to ensure a diverse department that reflects the community we serve. Currently, we have an authorized strength of 223. That number should be 235, and we're asking in our budget for that increase. This is made up currently of 216 sworn and 7 non-sworn. Even after the most recent class that had graduated, we were still 6 people short due to retirements over the last year. And we currently have 12 people who are injured and are off on injury leave or light duty. Light duty does not count toward our manning, so we are short those people. We do have an average of 10 people retire each year, and we had 14 retire or leave for other jobs in 2023. And we expect greater than average retirements in the coming 3 years. So I would switch to the next slide, but are we going to have it up?
It should be up
Okay,
in just
all
a
right.
moment.
So if you look at this slide, I'll try to explain it as best as possible, but this is where we have to decide our staffing levels. The blue line that you see reflects the staffing that we have currently. Here, let me catch up real quick. Okay, all right. All right, so the goal is to maintain 235. We're requesting 21 hires in October. If we only were to hire 15, that puts us under that green line before they even get out of the academy. And the ultimate goal is to stay at or around 235. The top of the blue line the blue line shows you where we are as far as current staffing. So once they graduate in July of 2025, we would finally be there if we were able to hire the class of 21. That leads us to the fact that we need to continue to hire on an annual basis in order to prevent injuries, mental stress on those that are working, and other problems, just to make sure nobody is overworked. All right, so we're going to go back to that first pie graph, maybe. Okay, there. Oh. Is it? All right, what am I
Gotta
doing
love
wrong?
technology.
There we go.
And there it is again. There we go. All right, so back to that first graph. Unlike many other departments, we have 20 facilities that we have to maintain. In the fixed asset line, we have 1.1 million. Half of that is budgeted to remediate a mold issue at Station 12. We've got some other items in that line, but we have 100,000 is what we have to maintain the 20 facilities. When we look at what's left over after salaries, pension, and facilities, we have 6.5 million to cover the day-to-day operations of the fire department. And of that 6.5, 1.3 is rollover from previous years, from a grant, and from other projects that all began in FY24. All right, so we're going to move on to the meat and potatoes. I know you can't see this up there, but you can probably see it on your chart. This looks like we have a lot of increases. However, like I said, 1.3 is rolled over money, and 1.2 million is increase in pension obligation. Personal services increased by 3 million, and this is due to contractually negotiated pay increases, pension obligations, and insurance and other fringe increases. If the alternative pension calculation is chosen, this line will decrease. Contractual services line is increased due to a facility study. And I'll get into that more, but SFD has 20 buildings that we maintain, and the study was recommended by the CPSM study in order to help us determine priorities for repair and replacements. Commodities line includes gear for another class to be hired in the fall of 24. It also includes that money that we just allocated Tuesday night as a rollover for that gear as well. The equipment increase is we have a new initiative to replace old vehicles. We have an SCBA grant rollover of $466,000 that you guys voted on only 2 months ago. That was part of a grant. We have an ambulance equipment to outfit one new ambulance, and if the ambulance is cut, we would still need $75,000 for EMS equipment that we would either put on rigs or put toward that. An EDP line is primarily for traffic preemption system at $300,000 that's already been approved and is rolled over. And the rest of that line, the EDP line, is for annual software and cloud-based programs. The telecom line, we're rolling $450,000 over for a paging system that we started a year ago. So a lot of our ending balance is from FY24 is rolled over into FY25. All right, I'm going to try this again. Yay. All right. So similar to recent history, not much change here. Our revenue is our revenue. Just for reference, we cover 124 square miles. Our comparables, such as Peoria, cover 50 square miles. That's 60% less. Our revenue comes from our fire protection districts. Okay. One of the great things is Mayor Busher, she reinstated the state fair contract. So that is additional revenue that we're finally bringing back in after a 2-year hiatus. I'm going to breeze through these, but I know you don't want a bunch of statistics, so I've cut this down. But so total cost for service this year is up 16%. That's pretty significant. And as you're all aware, vacant structures, vacant fire is our leading cause of fires this year. These are our numbers. The big thing to know, well, on this, when I ran the report, 200 series is, there's only 12, but it's ruptures and explosions, so we don't have very many of those. And then 600 series is smoke scares and other types of fire calls. So if you have any questions on those, just let me know. Next page is significant to this is the number of arrests we've made. So of all the arson calls that we've had this year and the vacant structure fires, we've actually made 16 arrests this year for arson.
Good.
It's very good, yes. And in October, an arrest was made that has kind of dampened or extinguished the number of fires that we've had in vacant structures along the rail. So that is a good thing for us as well. So we hope that continues, but unfortunately 3 fire deaths, which I hate to say it, that's more than we had in the previous year, but it's about average. This slide speaks for itself, but do know that our Class 1 fire department, we pride ourselves on that. We do a lot of training, over 77,000 hours, and that doesn't include the rookie class. Those simply tell the facts that we're doing more training, more calls with the same number of people. So, as you may all be aware, I'll let you guys read through this. I'm not going to read it, but we had 3 fire engines in the budget. Those were cut before we got here today. That's a $3.6 million savings. However, I want you to think about that, read this, see what this and the next slide are. But we had to buy 7 fire engines 2 years ago, and we didn't receive those until half of them came in late in last year, and then the other 4 are arriving as we speak. So this shows you if we were to, these are the rigs we received and when we received them in 23 and 24. The reason I was asking for 3 new fire engines is because there's a 48-month delay before they would come in. So that is just something we're looking at. Obviously, we will be back here next year, or if for some reason money becomes available, we may ask for it midterm. So, okay. So the next thing is the EMS system. We ran 13,000 EMS calls in 2022. We ran over 15,000 calls in 2023. And our goal is to provide the best care for the citizens of Springfield. So we've actually been in discussion with the private ambulance companies, and we've looked at different things. Some of the ambulance companies have mentioned change the ordinance that would require the minimum number of ambulances on the street. You know, this is one of the things. We have 1 ambulance and 1 equipment to support it in the budget, but we've also been looking at other things. So we were mandated by a judge to discuss the ambulance service with the union, and we've done so. And we've developed several different proposals. And we just want to be prepared in the event that something happens similar to COVID-19 when things got tough. I've listened to you about the fact that the holes are in the budget and would like the opportunity to sit down with each of you to discuss opportunities in which we can help fill the budget deficit. If non-transport specifically, we have other ideas as well that have to do with this EMS issue that could possibly generate revenues. But the facts are there on the slide on why we feel that, you know, ambulances are a possible necessity. All right, so next is what's new and continued in 2025. So we're opening up 3 new fire stations, which you're all aware. These are the physical items that you can see. We know the new firehouses are eating at the budget, but again, they're coming to fruition, and yeah, we are aware that it's a big cost, and you know, we do thank you for that, and our eyes are aware that this is a big cost. So the other items are the 4 fire engines that are coming January through March. They will be outfit, and you will see them on the street soon. The expansion of the traffic preemption system is in the works. It's going to take a while, but for, the initial phase was all on the west side. The new preemption system is scattered throughout the town. We touched, I think, 5 different wards with the new phase that is coming to be. All right, so the next is new initiatives. The engineering company to assist with current firehouses. So, as I said earlier, the CPSM study recommended a consultant. We know the current firehouses are getting older and thus experiencing more annual repair needs and costs. An engineering analysis would ensure that they are structurally able to continue to serve the community where they are today. This may also look at where to best place future dollars to relocate houses, and it would also let us know any new house down the road, but we need to plan so that we don't end up with emergent issues at the current fire stations. So just to give you an idea, today we found out that the fire station number 1, the main one, the elevator quit working, and the guy said it's going to be $6,000. So we didn't budget that, and so that'll be something that we've got to find the money for. So, and we're hoping that he can fix it for that, but I know elevators are super expensive. So hiring, the next thing we're in new initiatives, hiring. We'd hope to hire 21 in the class that we just brought before you. As you're aware, it dropped to 16. The reason being, some took positions with other fire departments and some just chose not to come work for the city. So recruitment is one of those things that we're also going to try to continue, and I'm asking you to hire 21 in the fall. So future priorities. We'll continue with new recruit classes on an annual basis. That's the goal. That should help stabilize the overtime costs. We anticipate large amounts of retirements, as I said before, over the next 3 continuous years. And the reason that is because we hired, 25 years ago, we hired 30, followed by a class of 15, followed by a class of 10 over an 18-month window. And so all of those people are getting ready to retire. So unfortunately, we can't change what we did 25 years ago, but we're looking to change that now so that we don't have to hire 30 all at once again. And that's why we're trying to stagger it every year. The other things that we're a future priority, we know it's not going to happen right away, but Station 2 out at where CWLP on Stevenson and Dirksen, it is the engine house that's in the worst shape right now, and it also is our training facility. So one of our future priorities would be to replace and redesign that training facility. And then other things are the challenges in the EMS system and rework the ambulance ordinance. The next, I'm basically done, but I'm going to give you 3 slides of pictures. So this is Station 6. It is the, So it is coming along. It's about a month behind the other 2. This is Station 8. It's the furthest along. And then Station 13, and that was just taken yesterday. So snow on the ground. So, and I don't have a slide that says questions, but at this time, any questions?
Thank you, Chief. Alderman Rockford.
Yes, Ed, thank you and your staff for being here and
Yes,
your
thank you.
presentation. My question is pertaining to our ambulance service, our EMTs. Do our firefighters respond to EMT calls between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m.?
Yes, I do.
Okay. My next question is, what is your total head count right now,
Right now,
firefighters?
2.
Does that include the new recruits that are start tomorrow?
They're the ones that start tomorrow. I'm not sure where, so it'll be 16 plus, hang on a minute. Denise, what's our current head count? Are we at 217? 216. 216.
216.
Plus 16, so 232.
Okay. And how long does that training usually take?
8 to 9 months.
Okay. And so when you have these classes come in, how long does a list last?
So a list lasts a minimum of 1 year. So when we test, the list goes into effect. It's good for 1 year, and it can be renewed month to month.
Okay. And you were talking about your trucks. You said they take 48 months to arrive?
That's what we're being
Roughly?
told, yes. And So when you buy a fire engine, they give you options. They give you options of you can prepay at today's price, or they give you can order and sign on a contract that you will pay at the price when it is delivered. So,
Is there a big change in,
there is, because
Okay.
it increases between 5 and 7% annually, and that is just across the board. That's just what the,
okay, and how long so if you get a new truck, you're getting trucks right now, how many years will these trucks last?
so the NFPA standard is a frontline fire engine is 15 years on the street, and then you can move it to spare reserve. A fire truck, you can get 20 years out of, but, that's
Is that
fire.
good? I mean, is that,
Is it good? Yeah,
I mean,
but
no,
fire
I mean, when I
trucks
say
cost.
good, I mean, it's good if you, but,
Yes.
but again, or is it, worth waiting that long? I mean, if you can get them sooner, and what I'm getting to is I always questioned before why we were on some kind of program where we, so many years, have so many years and get rid of them,
Yeah.
I know, they're a lot of money, but.
We have a rig replacement plan, a sheet that would show that. However, it requires purchasing at least one, if not two, apparatus every year.
Right.
I will tell you this. We were looking at used apparatus just yesterday, to see what's out there and see what we might be able, because we're going to have a few apparatus that we can sell. What is amazing is this, is the apparatus that are used, that are 13 years old, you can get $500,000 for. But the minute it turns 15 years old, it's $80,000.
Wow.
So, and that's just what we were looking at several different vendors. So the resale market drops, and it's just because people know that the NFPA standard, you can choose to follow that standard.
Right.
But that's, we would like to follow
Sure.
what the national standard is, so. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Hanover.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. And thank you all for being here. I got a couple questions just real quick. And you answered most of mine, which I appreciate. On your page 4 of your budget, and I'm sure there's explanations, but I was looking, when I go through, I look at what happened 2 years ago and see a large increase. On line 1414, it's the safety gear, and I'm not opposed to safety gear, but it almost doubled in price.
Can you tell me what?
It's page 4 of your budget. It's page
1414?
1414's the line, and it's contractual replacement of uniforms and safety gear, but.
So-
The only thing that caught my eye was it went from 256,000 to 400, almost $500,000.
Yeah, so,
I was like, that's crazy.
yeah, so we have in that's the year that so it's 1414, which is the ordinance that we just approved on Tuesday night.
Right.
For the gear for those firefighters. So we've got the gear that we just
For them,
ordered that we're expensing, and then we will have gear to order again in the fall for another class. And so that's what the price of
So
gear
there's more
costs.
hiring
So you've got 2 classes worth. Some were rolling forward, and then, yeah.
Okay.
So that's what the price of the
That
gear is.
explains it then.
Yes,
And then,
yes.
The only other question I have for you is on that I've talked to you about other things, and I'm not going to rehash them, but on your equipment on 1504.
Okay.
Right down the page under operations and training, it went from, 13,000 to 115,000 last year to 325. Is that to outfit the trucks that we're getting in? And do we take I guess a simple question for me is, the trucks that we decommission, do we take the equipment out of those trucks and put them in the new trucks?
We take some, however, when the new fire engines come in, the hose is at the end of life. And what we do is the current rig that's in goes into the spare reserve.
Right.
And so we keep all of that equipment on it.
Okay.
And then currently our spare reserve doesn't have any tools on it because
Right, so you buy
as
all
they,
new
yeah,
jaws of
so what
life and all
happens
that.
is
Right.
Well, what happens is over the time, the spare, we end up stealing from it to replace tools.
Right.
Because when we, unfortunately, when we go into fires, tools get broken, tools get
That's to be expected.
tools get burned up and all that. So by the time we order a new rig, it's time to outfit and buy new equipment. All of the tools, they don't get thrown away. They get put in reserve so that they can be used when a tool breaks or when we need to, outfit a rig, whatever the case may be. What we do also have is we have a training trailer that has a set of tools on it as well for practice. And so that just, if there's extra at that point, it goes into the training.
Right.
Because the tools we use, unfortunately, wear and tear and then technology. We can only keep stuff as long as there is the technology to support it.
Chief, I just saw the line and saw the quite a bit of an increase in it, and I was
Well,
like, I thought
and
I'd
that's-
ask. I figured it was to
and which
stock
line-
the new trucks.
Which line are you in?
1504, I think it is.
Well, 1504 also has to stock an ambulance, some of the equipment to stock the ambulance.
All right. Well, and, I mean, my take on that is, right, we just can't afford to do it right now. Just can't. Not with this budget. It would be, we go that route and then we turn around and we're gonna have to get rid of some of the people that are going through class. I can't support that right now. And,
Understood.
I think that there's some things we have to do with the private ambulance companies first and, make them, make things better there and then maybe look at it down the road. But with the budget the way it is right now, it would scare the heck out of me to put an initiative that big here. I'd love to be able to get you more trucks. I mean, last year we did it, but we got to be real up here. And you guys know that. You guys have been around a long time, and so good.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. Alderman Gregory.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I've had some good conversations about the ambulance thing, and I know there was a study before, and that study sort of advised against it, and on financial portions before. So I think we just need to look at that, look at the ordinances to make sure we got EMS services. I think that's a big thing. Especially for our community, seeing some of the things that we do have responsible. And there's a part of me that looks at the ambulance because our firefighters are the first ones to the scene in many of the situations that we have outside of fire. So I think it is something that we need to look at, and I'm in agreement with Alderman Hanauer. It's just money wise, and I'll say for all of our departments. I mean, we've over the last 2-3 years or whatever, we made some bold moves with all of our departments. I think that was $20 million with equipment in 3 firehouses with our fire department. We made some bold moves with our police department and things. So this council has definitely. I don't, when we come back, I'm sure some of our colleagues will have some cuts and stuff. So I don't want any of our departments feeling like, we don't care about them, because we do. It's just we're in a situation where we don't want to raise taxes on our citizens and things of that nature. So we'll have to make some tough decisions and hold off on some things right now until we can get in good financial shape and look at some things, make sure it's straight. Moving on to Station House number 12 and the $1 million in mold remediation. Wow, that's
500,000.
500,000.
We got an estimate for 500,000 for mold remediation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would think that's one of the newer houses, correct?
It is.
So how do we got mold in the house that's, how many years old is it?
It's 27 or 28 years old. 28 years old, yeah.
Okay. So I guess, we got to do what we got to do and make sure our firefighters is good, and any other building that we have. But, I thought that we had a study before under Chief Bly when we were looking at building these 3 firehouses that we have now. That sort of pointed us in the direction that we go. I may be off, but I thought we have that. But it just troubles me, you know, that house is already under that situation. And, you know, for our newest firehouses, you know, I hope that we don't see, you know, having to spend $500,000 on them and, you know, for mold in, you know, 10, 20 years or whatever. I hope, you know, where does that come from? Is there a reason why? I mean,
On the mold specifically, I think it's a ventilation problem that was, I can't speak to why. I'm not in
Yeah.
construction, but it's a ventilation problem. And because of it, you know, it's throughout the majority of the living quarters in the attic space, and which is the plenum for the HVAC. So, but yeah, but on the study that you brought up that was done 2 years ago, that study is what recommended us doing a study to figure out what we need to do to the houses.
so we had a study to recommend a study.
Yeah, somebody, yeah. Hey, yeah, let me do a study
world.
to tell you need to pay me more to do another study, but no, but they did recommend somebody else do a study that is a professional, that is an engineer that can tell us truly what's wrong with the firehouses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understandable. My last point is, you know, on our vacant houses that do catch fire and things, I think, you know, the process, whatever our process and whatever we're doing, communicating with Public Works, I would like to see that just a little tighter. You know, because sometimes I see houses that catch fire and, you know, we gotta, you know, they sit for a month or whatever and we gotta board them up. I just, you know, hope there's a way that we can work together to make sure, hey, it was fire, it's a total loss, you know, hey, let's contact the owner, let's make sure it gets buttoned up, you know, with Public Works and, you know, sort of streamline that a little bit. And it'll help us out. I know people are going to get back in there and we'll still have to do what we do, but I think it'll help us out, just speeding up that process and getting it taken care of.
Myself and Director Fuchs speak almost after every single fire about whether or not there's certain levels, imminent danger and stuff like that, that they can come in. And if it burns enough, they can take it down right away. Other things they can't. But we speak almost every fire, and he was notified. We had 2 fires yesterday, and he was notified of each of them.
Okay.
Or his staff, yes.
All right, I appreciate you. So that's all I got.
Yes.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. Alderman Gregory answered my third question. So Chief Canning, the fire department budget for your professional services is increasing, and you went from $50,000 to $527,500. Can you talk a little bit about that? And that is line 1218 on page 2 of your budget. You had-
1218, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Do you have another question?
I was gonna say, I noticed in FY23, you had 58,000, then FY24, 50,000, and then FY25, 527,500. It just seemed like a big jump.
Yeah. That study that we were just talking about is a $500,000 study. And that's the 518 professional and artistic,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So I just
Woman.
wanted to understand that.
Can I speak to that really
Yes.
quickly? Do you mind?
No,
Sorry.
go ahead.
But I-
Please, Mayor.
So I had asked the chief personally to put that in his budget. So he did that per my request, so I will take the heat for that, Chief Canny. The CPSM study that the previous administration paid for stated that we needed to look at all 20 of our structures and have an engineer look at them before we built one house. That was never done. Now we have mold at $500,000 in a house. So I had asked the chief so we could find out what's wrong with our houses. So you can cut it out. I mean, it's not we can just keep reacting as well. So just kind of giving you the history there.
Well, I
Thank you,
guess
Mayor.
when we, got you. Okay, and then Chief Canning, my last question is, I also see that you're budgeting $3.4 million for overtime salary, which is $1.3 million more than last year. And I was thinking the cause of that, what is the cause of that? And then are your new hires going to alleviate some of those costs as you're bringing in more?
So, okay, so the increased cost of the overtime, if you remember right, this past year, it actually is ending at 3.2 million. So it's only going up a little bit. It's still significant. The problem is I tried to be realistic in my estimate.
Okay.
Okay, we are also opening up Station 13. It is very difficult for me to project when those opening dates and such would be, and I know that I have, in the next 3 months, before those people get hired, I've got 6 people retiring, before June. And so, we've got to fill the vacancies due to the retirements, plus the 6 I've got empty, and then we are opening another house at some point in the fall or in the late summer. So that's where that is coming from. I ran the numbers. I ran it 2 or 3 times. Tried to be as conservative and realistic as possible, and that's where I ended up. I would love to say that it's going to be less than that, and it could be, and we could cut it, and I could end up being back here in November or December asking you for more. But again, I tried to be as realistic as possible of where we would be without anything extra.
Okay, and you were in here when I asked Ms. Ramona. I just keep bringing up us being broke. Like in the next 2 fiscal cycles, the fund balance numbers and how that's looking. So I'm not questioning what you're doing. I'm just making sure I understand and I'm comprehending, because the numbers are just not adding up to me for the next few years. But you guys are doing a good job, and I hope to see some women up there next year too. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Conley.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. I've a couple of different perspectives on this. First of all, thank you for printing double-sided. Not a slam on anyone, but it's just one of my personal, I love that you actually did that. So, and also, thank you for your honesty in budgeting this time. I think every year since I've been on this council, we've had about $1 million, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, budgeted for overtime, and we have always significantly gone over that. This is the first budget I've seen where the overtime budget reflects, Mayor, I think you said, what we honestly think we're going to be paying. I know that's not fun to stand up here and have that number. But I appreciate you doing that. It's an uncomfortable but honest reflection of what we actually need to be paying to staff these almost 13 houses. Secondly, and I noted one small thing. Everyone else has asked about some of the other increases. There's an arson canine in here in your budget. Are we getting a dog?
So it was.
Because if you bring a Dalmatian into this fire department, I'm gonna die. Love it.
Okay, we have been trying for the past year and a half to get an arson canine. Unfortunately, we have not been, so you have to apply, and you can apply through State Farm or ATF. State Farm, unfortunately, quashed their program this past year. So ATF has us on the list, and we just have not been given that award yet to get a canine. But it would be assigned to the Springfield Fire Department, and it would be, we would have to go and assist ATF if they called upon us. However, you see how little the cost is for a canine, because they shouldered the majority of the cost in the training.
That's wonderful.
But it would be wonderful to help us determine arsons, and we hope that it would help increase that number of arrests too, because we would know sooner. Because right now we take samples and we send them to a lab, and we wait 3 to 5 months to get a test result back, and then every day that goes by, another case comes in, and that just gets pushed
Sure, and then
behind.
things just build up. And obviously,
but
you've
yeah,
got that in your presentation, that arsons are not an insignificant.
Yes, and I don't want to burst your bubble, but it would be a lab and not a.
Labs will never burst my bubble.
and not a Dalmatian, but yeah. Yes.
Listen, I think it's a great initiative. I appreciate you putting it in there. But now I want to kind of pivot to the ambulance.
Yes. Okay.
So we've had conversations about this. There's been a lot of talk about it. My understanding is when our fire departments arrive on the scene, and our firefighters who are trained EMS provide certain care, emergency care, because they are generally the first ones there, are we reimbursed for that?
No, not unless, so we go and we provide the service, and then the ambulance arrives on scene, and they transport the person to the hospital. There's a billing, they bill. We do have an agreement with one of the companies that if we upgrade their ambulance, if their ambulance that arrives on scene is of a lower level of care than what we provide, that we would upgrade it, and then they will give us, they will pay us a little bit of that
So
they recuperate.
one of the ambulance services, and how long has that agreement been in place?
It's not been in place for very long. It's
Okay.
just recent.
So what about supplies that are used for our,
Yeah. Supplies that we use on a call, whatever we use, we get back from the ambulance or we get back from the hospital. So it's depending on what we use. We do have certain supplies that, we don't get back. We still have oxygen. Certain things are disposable that we don't get back. But for the majority of our supplies, we do get, we trade them out. So whatever goes with the patient, the ambulance will give us before they head to scene. Or if it's a patient that's critical, obviously they will leave, and then we will follow them to the hospital and get replenished at the hospital.
so we're unable to bill and for the time and training of our fire department personnel, is that correct?
Under the current situation, that's correct, yes.
And even,
Accidents, the people out of town.
okay, well,
That's for a
except for when we use our
rescue
Jaws
call,
of Life
right.
for out-of-town residents, that's true. And that's only one ambulance company of how many that is agreeing to work with us to give some of that back?
Of the three, but one company doesn't provide less than, a lesser level of coverage, and the other one, we are working with them just to get them to provide the level of care that's needed, so.
So some of the concerns around the ambulance, and I can understand them. I will say, I disagree with the study that was done that showed that this was an unfunded or an overly expensive for municipalities. I've talked to and looked into a number of different communities that have municipal ambulance service. The staff are not paid at the firefighter rates. I mean, that's different, but it is something where the fire department or the municipality can direct bill, can get insurance payments back, and recoups value so that it may not actually make money, but it at least breaks even, at least so that it is an initial investment that then comes with a secure way to get insurance and reimbursements back. These ambulances this ambulance, we're only talking about one, right? So we're not going to be talking about patient transport between hospitals and extended care facilities or anything like that. This one would be just for emergency situations, is that
Emergency
correct?
care, yeah.
I just want to caution my colleagues, there's penny wise and pound foolish. And this idea has been passed around for a while. I see this as an additional investment that we're making, and it doesn't mean we have to make it at the beginning of the fiscal year. We talk a lot about the projections for this budget. And Mayor, I want to commend you. I think this is an extremely conservative budget. I think that your projections for growth for the city are conservative. We actually have a strong economy. We have a solid tax base. Our community, the state is continuing to hire. I understand people are concerned about insecurities in the budget moving forward, and I share that. Not thrilled about this $500,000 study, but I'm also very less thrilled about $500,000 worth of mold that's in a station where people who are already exposed to environmental hazards spend, their entire shift. That's very concerning. So if we have HVAC concerns and air quality concerns in our fire stations, that's an issue we need to be addressing. I I don't think anyone could forget, we had a retired firefighter come in here and talk to us about his cancer concerns. Now, I'm not going to say those are directly related, but I have seen the studies that cancer has a higher incidence rate among fire departments and firefighters.
100%.
We do not want our fire stations, our firehouses, because this is where they live when they're working, to be an additional source of environmental contaminants. So I see this, and I understand and respect my colleagues' concerns about budget issues, but I also think that the concept of a municipal ambulance is an investment that can in itself, even if it doesn't make money, because I don't know that, we're not a for-profit model, and that's not what a municipality should be. But we are about a service delivery, and we're about a service delivery that is timely and is appropriate and provides that transportation. We're not going to convert fire trucks to be ambulances. We don't want people being thrown in with your hoses and going to the hospital. But I have heard too many stories of people who waited an extended amount of time for an ambulance to arrive for them. I don't even think one ambulance can cut that down at the municipal level. But I think it's a good start. And I would just caution my colleagues to consider that in terms of frontline services, where we're providing that health, life, safety to our residents, a municipal ambulance is not a bad investment. It is something that we can bill insurance. It is something that we can recoup our costs on. And I think it's something that we need to not dismiss out of hand just because, yes, it's a six-figure number. It's a big six-figure number. But it's also what I see, and Mayor, I see this throughout your budget, is an investment in our community. And an investment in our community builds the city, and it attracts people, and it shows that we value the quality of life. And I think that ambulance is one of those investments. So certainly want to have a little more conversations with you about it. I think we need to keep an open mind about the fact that this is not just a one-way out investment. This is something that we will be able to bring money back in. It will not pay for itself in the first year. We know that because we're not even going to, even if it passes and it stays in the budget and we get it as quickly as we can, it's not going to be here for a full year. But there's a reason why these ambulance services exist like they do, and it's because they do make money. And I think we need to be concerned about the delay in time that our residents have to go through frequently to wait for a private ambulance service when our fire department is sitting there on hand providing professional services to people who've been injured or are having a medical emergency. So I personally, I'm in favor of this. I think it is an initiative that shows some innovation and a willingness to kind of stretch out maybe outside of our prior comfort zone. And that's not always easy. But I do appreciate that you're taking that effort. And again, that you're standing up here with a very honest budget. That's very welcomed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Carlson.
Thanks, Chair. Chief, the 9 fire protection districts that we have contracts that.
Yes.
How much do they pay us every year? Is it all different?
It is. It
based
is
on
all
size?
different.
Okay.
Yes, it is. So, I actually have, if you'd like, I can
Yeah, I'm just kind
look
of
that up
curious.
right
I don't
now.
know if I'm
It
if I'm
varies
looking under
anywhere
seat
from
cushions here for penny, nickels, or dimes or not, because
It varies anywhere from 60,000 to like 150,000.
okay, so
Miguel, do you have that? Or Courtney? Don't have that.
so
Okay.
we're talking,
Yeah, give me a second. Let me see
so
if
we're
I've got.
talking real money then.
It ends up being 1.3, 1.4 million, I believe.
So the question is, each 9 is maybe a different contract
Each of the
based on
9 is.
size.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's set by
And
their
is-
board, their, and their
And
lawyer.
have those changed over the years, do you know, or?
Not significantly,
So,
not
okay.
significantly. And we don't have the power to come in and say, we want you to double your cost. It's not, we can't do that, but 3% maximum raise is the most that can,
Okay.
so.
But it's something.
Yeah, give me half a second, because I think I do, so.
Well, yeah, that's my.
You want me, can I just give this to you, and then you can pass it?
Yeah, I'm just curious, because, I mean, there's two ways to balance a budget. We either make cuts or try to increase revenue, and if there's a, if we're talking 60 to 100,000 per fire district, then, that's nothing to, I see it nothing to sneeze at, so that's all I had, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Williams.
Oh, yes, Chief.
Yes.
I'm going to reduce it just to 2 items because it's being long now. Something that hasn't come up yet, false alarms. So you're reporting that in 2023, there was 2,386 false alarms?
False alarms.
So do we arrest after that, or is there arrest numbers associated with these?
So after false alarms, if they're true false alarms, after so many, there's an ordinance that we can fine for it as being an ordinance violation after they exceed a certain number of false alarms. However, it has to be a true false alarm. And I will tell you this, so we go to one complex continuously for alarms, and we don't really have a way to control it, but they notoriously have people who smoke in the hallway, and it sets off the alarm. That is not a false alarm, because that alarm activated due to smoke. It's not a fire, but that is not truly a false alarm. So we could change that ordinance to include those, but after so many false alarms, they can be fined for the false alarm, the nuisance alarm.
So I'm mostly concerned with the cost of, when you go to these things, when it's 2,386 of them, and is there a cost every time, or not?
As far as a cost
to the city or the fire department as you respond?
So
There would be.
we are there every day, and what type of call we go to, I guess it doesn't matter. However, yes, it's another call that we're not available to go on somebody's medical call, or it's another call that we are doing that instead of fighting somebody's fire.
Thank you. And then my second thing now, you already told me you and Director Fuchs talk.
We do, yes.
And after each fire. So you have this item where you have vacant structure fires investigated, 39. So I want to you do take recommendations, right?
I do,
or you're
yes.
willing to.
Yes.
So, and I've brought this up before, but I'll just try to dress this up with some of your language. So who is your training guy? Okay.
Chief Calvert.
So Chief, you have special teams training, and my ideal, and I'm trying to dress this up with you guys' language, so maybe you'll do it, and I'm trying to find you some money that you can use towards your mold or whatever, because I'm trying to give you a way to use Director Fuchs' demolition money through something called a controlled burn, using your special team, so you'll be able to count this as training, and then we can reduce this number from 39, Mayor, to 18. Because we could plan this, call it a training, have the control burn, get rid of all those houses, and then all that money that Fuchs has for demolition, since y'all talk all the time, you can say, now Fuchs transfer that money or work with Ramona, get that money to you to help out on some of these other issues that Ralph has and Shine has about mold and things like that. That's the best I can do right now. So that's my recommendation. I still stand by it because I see every time we respond or I get the call, another one of those houses is on fire. There were resources. Those are times away where they could be going to something a little more legit. And I just think it's time to take a good look at that and see if, especially when I saw the training in there, to maybe make it some kind of training. I don't know. I'm not a fire expert, but and turn this into a win-win for everybody. Me and Rockford get all those houses down. We ain't got to worry about where he's going. Scarlett don't get the calls about the homeless being in those houses because all that's gone. The new homeless shelter over there don't have to worry about fighting them to convince them to move on Dirksen because they'll have to because they're not there. No, I didn't give 1,000 reasons, man. Let's work on this and get this done.
Me and Director Fuchs talk, and he actually gave us one of the houses to use this training. However, when it comes to fires and controlled burns, when we do controlled burns, we do them out in the country where there's no fear of it spreading to anywhere. I understand most of these vacant structures are also next to other vacant structures, but when you light this thing and you do this burn, you're putting carcinogens in the air, creating traffic hazard. I mean, you've seen what happens. You've been at a couple of these fires.
I was there trying to tell them to let it burn, yeah. I was there. But I mean, I watch the news and I see California just purposely make a big fire and call it a controlled burn. So it gave me the idea we could do this and kind of settle a lot of programs.
I understand that. I will say, and I don't want to speak for Director Fuchs, but I know they've got a plan and they're doing remediation, because there's asbestos in these, and there's other things that they have to do. And for us to do a burn like that, we have to get an EPA permit, and they have to, there's a lot of hoops you've got to jump through. I mean, our guys would love the fire training, but it's just not something that we should be doing and spreading that smoke through the neighborhood. You know, a lot of those are in that Pillsbury neighborhood, and those neighbors don't want that smoke coming in their house. They don't.
Calvert is prepared to speak.
I'd just like to add, Chief Canny is exactly right. We would love to do that. In fact, we're always looking for, we call them acquired structures that we can burn. And we have people call us because they want to build a new house on the property. And it's cheaper if they can donate it to the fire department to burn it down than to have it torn down. But we unequivocally tell them we cannot burn in the city for all the reasons Chief Canny has said. We would gladly take that house to practice other things, you know, ventilate the roofs and forcible entry, and there's any number of things we can do with the house, but they're typically not looking to help us out as much as to get their house torn down for little to no money. So anytime we could have a controlled burn, we would love to do that. We do that with the recruits. We do that with our existing on-shift firefighters. They need to practice too. We just aren't able to do that in the city.
Okay, well, you know,
It's a good idea.
I mean, the homeless done burned how many of them? 4 now? Well, we may get to the 18 at the rate we go on with the demo. So that's just something I want to recommend and maybe end on a light note. Thank you, Chief.
I appreciate it. I do.
Yeah.
Thanks for the thoughts.
Thank you, Alderman Gregory.
Just a quick follow-up on my last question. For the mold out on Station House number 12, how did we identify that? And the reason why I'm asking, because you know, I have some of these mold inquiries at houses in my ward, and most of the time, public health tells them that they don't have a way to really test it, and it's an EPA thing. So if we have a way, I think it can help us in our public works.
So I'm going to turn that over to Chief Zumo, because he has been with that every step of the way on how it was identified and what steps we've taken. So,
All right.
So we've had a mold issue at that station house for, I'd say probably 10 years at this point. And for 10 years, we've been putting a Band-Aid on it.
Okay.
And it's progressively gotten worse to the point where I brought in a testing company to actually get into the attic space and the living space to see where the areas were above the limits. Currently, we're lucky that it's not in the living quarters itself, it's in the attic space, but that still needs to be addressed. I'm not one that likes Band-Aids. I like to fix the problem.
Absolutely.
And the testing company did their testing. After you do that, you have to bring in an engineering study that then recommended what all work had to be done. We put it out for RFP twice, got no bids at all. Finally spoke with O'Shea in one of our meetings. They came out and gave us a bid, and that's where we've got this $500,000 number. I mean, we've done our due diligence. This is what it takes to fix that station house.
No, I was just.
And ultimately, that's part of, you know, going back to the study, we have a lot of issues that are like this that are compounding because of deferred maintenance. We've had many, many years of budget cuts where things like this were obviously cut very early on, and chickens have come home to roost a little bit.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. I see nobody else request to speak, so I'll ask a couple questions. Chief, you know, my understanding is, and years ago when I was in the mayor's office, we looked into the fire protection district question that Alderman Carlson asked, and we discovered at that time that the 9 fire protection districts, the amount that they contribute to the city or partner with the city as far as funding is based on the equalized assessed valuation of those individual fire protection districts that are outside the city of Springfield. And there is a statutory cap on what they can tax. And at that time, and I'm sure it's the same, ask you if you could
I
please
believe it
check.
is, yes.
They were all capping, they were all at the cap, and they couldn't tax anymore. And we even had conversations with the folks over at the legislature about this issue years ago, and there didn't seem to be any appetite to change anything. Remember, we're talking about areas outside the city of Springfield. Is that your recollection as well?
That is, I believe,
Okay.
I was, when you were doing that, I was near you or at the same time.
Yeah, you had more hair and I had more brown hair. but we'll just leave it at
Exactly,
that.
I was 50 pounds lighter too, but yes. But yeah, no, you're exactly correct. And at the time, we tried to levy a tax on somebody, and they decided they thought they would pull their,
Yeah.
us and go with someone else.
My second question relates to fire protection districts.
Yes.
But before I go there, I want your opinion on, because we all get, especially when you become a new older person, we get this question asked, how come we can't put up speed humps on our streets throughout the city? And we've been told by the department in the past that it is definitely a bad idea from a fire protection standpoint, and it's bad on our equipment. But could you elaborate a little bit on that?
I can. It's multifaceted, actually. So one, it causes damage to the fire engines because they're going over the speed hump, and they are very heavy pieces of equipment, and so it damages the tires, it damages the springs. It also slows our response. So in addition to damage, it slows our response. Studies have been done, and I believe it's 10 seconds. You have to slow down, and then you have to re-speed back up to go over the speed hump, whatever you want to call it, at the speed that's required to try to limit damage. So you've got slowed response and damage. The other issue is when you go over that bump, especially, we've talked about ambulances quite a bit tonight, but in the back of an ambulance, when you're treating a patient, you are not restrained. And when you go over that hump, it can cause the people treating the patient to shift and to cause injuries. And so that's just three things that I can tell you off the top of my head that are negatives for putting in speed humps.
But the main one's impacting response time and
and
wear and
vehicle
tear on
damage.
equipment.
Yeah, we've talked about a fire engine's over $1 million.
Yeah.
And springs on those fire engines cost
So,
thousands of dollars.
We haven't really
yes.
opened up a can of worms this evening, so I think I'm going to do that just right now. But
Okay.
so why have we let these other municipalities in which where we have fire protection, why are we letting them, according to what you just state, impact our response time and impact the wear and tear of our equipment?
You know what, that's a very good question, and I will have to look into that. I do know there's at least one municipality that has them, and maybe that's something we need to look into a little bit more.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Thanks for getting back to me.
Yep.
Looks like Alderwoman Natriano.
Yes,
pushed her
thank
button.
you, Chair.
Yes.
So I would just like to say to you and to everyone else and to the chief, I am no expert on traffic control measures, but with some very cursory Googling, you can see that there are alternatives to speed bumps to reduce speeding. And there are different kinds of speed bumps that can be spaced out in such a way that a big vehicle like an ambulance or a rig could just go right over it. So I just want to be the person who speaks out against this culture in Springfield of thinking that we are a special city that cannot have speed bumps or speed tables or things of that nature. It's just not true. The speed hump on Laurel in Leland Grove, I understand that would be a problem for your emergency vehicles, but there are other measures that we could take to slow cars down that would have zero impact on a vehicle the size of a fire engine or an ambulance or what have you.
Sounds like you need to talk to the chief.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
don't forget Director Fuchs, right?
Yes,
Anything
yes.
else,
Public
Alderwoman?
CCE, Chief City Engineer.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to ask an obvious question. So regarding your overtime issue, and retirements, is there no way to take those folks who are retiring and keep them on to cover that overtime?
No, we don't, we currently have no way to, there is no commitment. Some places, they have, we need a year notice that you're going to retire. That's currently not within our, and then the pension rules for fire and police are written that once you leave employment with the fire department, you cannot come back and work for the city in any capacity. There is one exception to that, and I believe you have to restrain from your pension while you're doing such, but you can run for alderman. So, but that is the only
Crazy not to do
caveat.
that.
Let me speak on that, Chief.
Can't give up your
because-
pension, come on now.
We need to
No,
give counseling. on
you
that
have to
one.
make an X
My
amount of
God.
money, also.
Yes,
So
yes, yeah, so, yeah.
I don't make that much, Ralph.
Alderwoman, did he address your issue, your question?
Yeah, I
Yeah, so
think,
we don't have a way to have them come back.
okay.
No.
So not come back, but like, do you say, hey, don't retire, you can be halftime, or is,
We don't have that. I will say there are other programs that I know of in other states that offer a system. And I don't want to get into it because I'm not super educated on it, but you know, things called like drop programs and
Okay.
things like that, where you retire and you're allowed to stay but you get credits, and I don't know how that works in Illinois with the pension and if it's even allowed. So
Okay.
I'd be speaking outside of
Sure.
my knowledge base, so.
yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not allowed
Thanks,
in that.
3
I'm being
million
told
is a
that
lot.
it is not
so-
allowed, period, in
Article
Illinois.
4 doesn't, I've.
Does not,
forwards,
right.
backwards, and
That's what I was, yeah, I'm sorry. Again, outside my knowledge base. The guy next to you probably knows a lot more, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anything else, Alderwoman?
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you. And anybody else have a question of the chief this evening and his staff? Chief, thank you very much for all you and your staff do. Again, it's not something that you always see a lot of positive things. You run into negative situations, and we appreciate the men and women of the department and all you do. I want to remind everyone that we do not have a committee hearing as we traditionally would this coming Tuesday, the 23rd. However, we do have a budget workshop. It's our final workshop on the schedule, and that's with City Water, Light and Power, Office of Public Utilities, and it's at 5:30 in the chamber here. So if I don't see you all, have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Deb.
I got you. Oh, yeah, I got him.